Just a quick review of this $50 paddle you see all over eBay. Also, I'd advise you, a lot of the sellers will take bids or offers. So I don't remember exactly what I bid, somewhere between 35 and 45, I don't remember exactly, but the seller took my offer. So you don't necessarily have to pay the full 50 bucks. But I thought I'd give my opinion of this thing. I've been using it for several weeks just for practice. Various reasons haven't tried to get it on the air yet, but it works fine. Um, I find it better than some of the 3D printed paddles. The reason being that with the 3D printed paddles that I've tried so far, the paddles tend to have some flex, and practicing at higher speeds, letting off of the dit in particular to distinguish between an H and an S, let's say, there's just that little bit of flex in the plastic that results in a lot of mistakes and forces me to have to kind of release with a lot more speed and intent than I would normally want to when I use my desktop paddles, which for me, just by comparison, if you want to know where I'm coming from the Vibraplex iambic paddles. So this is a portable-ish paddle, and I'll explain why I say ish. Well, first of all, it seems to be well made. I mean, some of the things though that I look for, is there any slop in the up and down of the arm? And the answer is yes, there is. But that doesn't bother me so much. It bothers me a lot on my desktop paddles when it's there for some reason. That doesn't bother me so much here. Can't really explain why, but it's okay. But on my desktop ones, I get the tightness perfect so that there isn't that up and down slop. Um, it's a magnetic return. It's not spring based, and I do not believe there is any way to adjust. Although there's a whole bunch of screws and everything, I looked at each one as carefully as I could, and I don't think there's any way to adjust the tension, or I guess the amount of force returned by the magnets. I do have a strain gauge I could go get and just kind of. I thought about that, measuring how much force there is on the return, but it's enough where when I practice, and again, I don't sand at 30, but I practice at 30 just to kind of push my skills and keep my reflexes sharp. I don't make too many mistakes. There aren't any mistakes where I'm scratching my head wondering if it was me, whereas with the 3D printed paddles, I find that, extra dits or extra das, I really don't think it was me. I think it had something to do with the paddle construction. I don't have that problem with this paddle. And again, my thinking, it has to do with just that because there's no flex in the paddles because they're metal. So that's a whole nother story. Okay, so the construction here is these are independent paddles. Each moves a little screw that then contacts that center post. You get the idea. And each is independent of each other. They're not on a single arm. And I have not tried because it's just, I like it where it is, and I also don't want to mess with it and just find out the hard way that you can't really adjust the offset between the post and the thing. It's very small. I'll try and see if my camera can zoom in. So you can see there isn't much spacing there, and I find it to be just about right. Maybe it's about a dime or a nickel's width, something like that. I could get some feeler gauges, I guess, if somebody really wants to know. But I do think it is adjustable with those screws. And the weird thing is, it's a flat surface which comes into contact with the flat surface of that post. You can see it's sort of a hexagon. They put some extra pins in the package. I'll show them in a minute if I can find them, which have a sharp point on them. And I don't know why they did that. I don't know if it's because maybe some operators want to use that sharp pin. Maybe if you're having issues with your keyer and the bouncer in the keyer, maybe a sharp point would work better. maybe it gives you a different feel. I don't know. Um, I really don't know why they wouldn't put the sharp ones in there, or maybe have an option between the two, or maybe they do have something to do with adjusting the tension. I just couldn't figure it out. I mean, you can, I don't know if I can get it on my phone camera here, you know, the magnets inside. But again, I looked at all these different screws and where they go, and none of them seem to adjust the internal magnet returns. Okay, so enough about that. Um, I like the feel of it for what it's worth at 30 words per minute practice. I would say my error rate is pretty low, and that's with holding this in my hand as if I were operating it portable. That's the way I like to practice with it, because I ultimately do want to take it portable, though I may not hold it in my hand, and here's why. On the bottom of this, there's these three really powerful magnets, and by powerful, I mean, um, you know, if I were to put them, so I would say, like, you can go out and get, this is not one big brick of steel. These are, I don't remember the exact width, maybe 8 quarter inch. I don't know how thick these coupons are for welding practice, but, or you can just get like a, you know, an outlet cover, like this thing, you know, for like, you know, 50 cents at Home Depot. Do I have the price tag on there? No, but I think it came from Home Depot. You know, like a metal outlet cover, um, and you could stick it on there if you didn't want to stick it on your radio, or maybe your radio doesn't have, but you could stick it on top of your radio, and it holds really tight to the point where I had to go get a screwdriver and pry it off. That's how tight it was grabbing on. So the point is, you can take it portable and just slap it on top of your radio, and or like I say, slap it on top of any, you know, old piece of metal you got lying around. You could either just take a big brick like this of coupons, or you know, take a thin one and then just C-clamp it down to the park bench or wherever it is you're operating from to have a nice stable platform. So I'm not sure I'm actually going to hold it in my hand um, when I take it. So the magnet feature is really nice on the bottom. Okay, now let's talk about, though, some issues about taking it portable that concern me a little bit, and let me see if I can. Okay, so you can see that switch there, and that I believe it just lets you switch between left or right-handed, I guess. You know, which side the dits and dots are on. It didn't come with this. There's like a 3.5 millimeter jack. It didn't come with this cable. This is just one I had around. All right, so the thing that has me a little concerned is how the contact, you can see, you know, the left and right panel, this little wire that extends from this little PCB board, you know, you can see how it's soldered there, and then that extends over to the paddle arm, you know, to create continuity, you know, over to the center post here. And you know, that concerned me because I was thinking, well, isn't that wire moving? And then so as I move the paddle, I'm not actually sure it's moving. I think there's enough slop or something here where I don't know if the wire flexes, because I was thinking, you know, is that solder joint? Oop, get out of there. Is that solder joint flexing or something, or, you know, over time? But as I move the paddle, I don't think the solder joint moves. I think there's a little give or a little gap in that connection there that doesn't strain much on it. But, you know, I've been using this for, you know, about a month now, you know, so, you know, easily several thousands of taps on it, and I don't see any problem in the solder joint. And you know what, if something happens, it's pretty easy to solder a fix in there, you know, just fix the solder. I wouldn't have done this with a solid wire like that. I would have used a stranded wire, but you can see how it's exposed. So what I will probably do is design and 3D print a little plastic covering or something, so that you know, moisture, water, you know, whatever I have, you know, when I'm outside, out and about with it, nothing, and even just, you know, you can imagine you just bump into that wire. I mean, you know, it's not super thin, but you know, you wouldn't want to break it somehow. It's just, you know, a little step. They could have put a little plastic cover over that whole thing. I guess, you know, and it just occurred to me, why not just take a whole bunch, just take a hot glue gun and just go to town and just put a huge glob of hot glue over that whole area and just call it a day. And you know what? I might end up just doing that. Um, why not? So, I like the patent. You know, if you want one that's made of metal, um, you know, and with the magnetic return instead of a spring, which I think long term makes it, you know, more viable. This area here, a little bit of problematic, but like I say, you know, you only paid $50. You could always remove the hot glue. I might just do that. Just goober it up with hot glue and call it a day. So, you know, for even if the sellers won't come down, and they should. I mean, almost all of them were taking bids on this thing, so I'm guessing you could bid 35 and be patient, or 45, but you know, I think it's worth it for all metal, for the magnets underneath, the feel of it, the precision. Like I'm not getting, like I say, you know, if you've used um, the 3D printed ones and you get those wild dits and dobs you can't explain, and just because the thing's flexing or the way you grip it, I haven't had that problem with this thing. Um, you know, and there may even be a way, you know, if you're really into it and you want to like tighten screws or put in little shims, you could probably take out the up and down play in the arms here. Um, but I don't know, for whatever reason, doesn't, like I say, it doesn't bother me on this. All right, well, as with all these paddle reviews, you know, everything's like super subjective, you know. So if you get it and you love it, great. If you get it and you hate it, I mean, don't blame me. You know, it's all subjective. But like I say, for a guy coming from a spring-based Vibraplex to this magnet-based guy, um, it works for me in my hand. You know, holding it, these magnets are really strong and will hold it rock solid on top of your radio. Just make sure you know what's under that, and that some kind of magnetic field created by those magnets isn't going to screw with your radio. Um, you know, so that's why I say you can just go get a bunch of steel coupons from anybody that welds will be able to get you some of those, or you can, you know, just go to the Home Depot and get, you know, a chunk of metal and hold that in your hand if you want more stability, and so on. And then hot glue or something else on there, you're good to go. So far, you know, I've tried, and the 3D paddles aren't terrible, you know, especially if you're operating 20 words per minute or less. But I just find my error rate is higher. You know, making mistakes. It just doesn't feel as durable. And also for me, here in Florida, you know, I leave stuff in the car, and if it's 3D printed and it's not made of the right plastic, it's going to melt and warp and give me all kinds of headaches. Whereas something all metal, you know, don't need to worry about it. So, all right, I'll put a link into if they're still on eBay. You know how eBay sellers come and go. And you know, I've seen them on eBay where this riser is white. The one I got showed up as black. There might be various versions of it. You know, you could go with worse. The one thing, like I say, if you're looking for that feature where you can adjust the tension, that, you know, like I said, I don't think you can do that here. You could be creative and take it apart and figure something out, probably, with screws. I'm thinking maybe that's what the screws they gave me with the sharp points are for, is like maybe bring it closer to the magnet somehow and increase the return force. I don't know, it didn't come with a manual or anything, you know. Came the slow boat from China. But all right, enough about it. I mean, it's not all I can say is it's not total garbage compared to 3D printed ones, which range from 25 to 30 bucks. You know, for about the same money, you get one all metal. I'm happier with this one. All right, 73 guys. Good luck.